"Mom, try this roasted chicken," my daughter said, her smile tight, almost rehearsed. "I made it the way you like it," on Christmas Eve, with the house full of soft chatter and clinking glasses. Her voice should have felt warm. Instead, something in it unsettled me. The way a draft slips through a window you thought was closed. I looked at the plate, then at her eyes. Bright, expectant, but something in them didn't feel like the daughter I knew. There was tension behind them, a shine too sharp. "My name is Marjorie Ellington. I am 67. I have lived long enough to know that instincts do not shout. They whisper. And the older you get, the easier it becomes to hear them. So while everyone else laughed around the table, I watched Kelsey's hands flutter as she pretended to adjust silverware. I felt a tightness settle beneath my ribs. David, her husband, sat beside me, retelling a work story, completely unaware of the small tremor in her smile. "That one is special." "Mom," she said, nodding toward the roasted chicken on my plate. Her tone grazed something deep inside me. I could not explain it, not even to myself. I only knew that my body stiffened the way it does when a wrong note sounds in a familiar song, without announcing a thing, without breaking the flow of conversation. I slid my plate toward David's spot. In the same motion, I pulled his plate toward me. No one noticed, not even Kelsey at first, but a moment later, I caught her glance snap toward the shift. Her smile froze, just for half a heartbeat, before she forced it back into place. 15 minutes later, David suddenly clutched his chest. The glass slipped, shattering on the floor. Conversation halted. Chairs scraped. Kelsey screamed. I sat still. My breath lodged in my throat, the untouched, roasted chicken cooling on the plate in front of me. And as the room fractured into panic, the quiet inside me only grew heavier, leading me back toward everything that had been unraveling long before this night. David's collapse replayed in my mind as the paramedics rushed him out, but another memory pushed in beside it, one that felt impossibly far from the woman Kelsey had become. When she was 8, she used to run into my room at dawn, jumping onto the bed and shouting, "Mom, wake up, we're late for the world." I would laugh, pretend to groan, and lift myself out of bed even after working a late shift. My name is Marjorie Ellington. I am 67. I raised Kelsey alone after her father died, moving from a small rental in Laurelhurst to a narrow duplex in outer northeast Portland. Each move meant something cheaper, something I could hold on to without fear of falling behind. "Mom, I don't want you picking me up in that car," teenage Kelsey once said, arms crossed, chin high. "People stare. They stare because you're beautiful," I told her, keeping my voice calm. Even though her words stung, she sighed. "They stare because it's old. Everyone else's parents drive something normal." The distance didn't start there, but it began to grow. Over the last 2 years, it had opened into a chasm. Kelsey found a promotion that came with pressure, new friends who measured success in brands, and a fiancé whose family cared about appearances. She never said she was embarrassed of me, but the pauses in her sentences grew longer, the sighs sharper. 2 months ago, she appeared in my kitchen, holding a stack of unpaid bills. "Mom, you need help managing your finances. You can't keep going like this." "I am living fine," I said, trying to stay steady. "You're not," she whispered, as if the words might break me. Her tone, her eyes. It was the first time I felt her pulling away, not out of rebellion, but out of judgment. And sitting in her dining room now, watching chaos unfold around David, I felt every inch of that growing distance settle across my chest. The fluorescent lights in the emergency room flickered against the walls as they wheeled David through the double doors. Kelsey clung to the side of the stretcher, sobbing loudly, her voice breaking in sharp, uneven bursts. "Please, he has to be okay," she cried. He was fine 10 minutes ago." A nurse stopped her at the threshold. "Ma'am, you need to wait outside." Kelsey collapsed into a plastic chair, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders trembled, but her eyes, when they lifted, slid past me as if I weren't standing there at all. I reached out, touching her arm gently. "Kelsey," I said. "Let me." She jerked away. "Don't. I can't talk right now." Her reaction landed like a blow. I stepped back, letting her fiancé's mother wrap her arms around her. The woman shot me a quick, sharp look, like she was already searching for someone to blame. A doctor approached us moments later. We stabilized him. He's conscious but weak. "We're running tests for toxic exposure." Kelsey's breath caught. "Toxic? What do you mean, toxic?" "It's preliminary," he said. "We need further tests." She cried louder, but her gaze avoided me completely. 2 detectives arrived not long after, a woman with a steady voice and a man scribbling notes as he scanned the hallway. The woman stepped toward me first. "Ma'am, you were seated next to the victim, correct?" "Yes," I said, my voice thin. "I was." "Did you notice anything unusual about the food?" Kelsey's head snapped up, finally looking at me, wide-eyed, almost warning. My throat tightened. The truth sat heavy behind my ribs. I could feel the moment hovering there, demanding something from me. But admitting I had switched plates, that the piece meant for me went to David, sent a shiver through me. I don't know," I whispered. The detective studied my face, waiting for more. And the silence around us felt like it was closing in. I stood there, torn open between instinct and loyalty, knowing that the next words out of my mouth could change everything Kelsey and I had left. The detectives asked Kelsey to step outside for a moment. She resisted at first, clinging to her performance of panic. But the female detective's calm firmness left no room for argument. When the door closed behind her, the room felt smaller. "Ms. Ellington," the male detective said, pulling a chair close to mine. "We need to clarify a few details from dinner. My name is Marjorie Ellington. I am 67. And in that moment, I felt every year of it." The female detective leaned forward. "Earlier, you hesitated when we asked about the food. Is there something you left out?" My fingers tightened around the edge of my coat. I switched plates." Both detectives stilled. "You switched plates with David?" the male detective asked. Pen frozen midair. "Yes," I whispered. "Kelsey served me first." Something felt off. I moved my plate to him and took his instead. The shift in their expressions was immediate routine interest, cracked into focused alertness. The female detective nodded slowly. "Can you tell us why you felt the need to do that?" "I don't know," I said, shaking my head. "It was instinct." Kelsey looked tense. "Has she ever acted strangely toward you before?" the male detective asked. "No," I said too quickly. "She's my daughter. She wouldn't hurt me." He glanced at his partner. I added, softer. "She gets overwhelmed. She's been stressed at work. Money's been tight. But she wouldn't do anything intentional." The female detective's tone stayed gentle. "We need to understand whether anyone had a motive to harm you." I felt heat rise in my throat. "She loves me. We've argued. But that doesn't mean anything. She's just under pressure. She's my child." A knock sounded on the door. Kelsey's muffled voice leaked through, demanding to know why this was taking so long. The detectives didn't move to open it. The male detective spoke quietly. "Ms. Ellington, if the food was contaminated, the intended target might have been the person served first." His words landed like a weight on my chest. My pulse thudded in my ears. Kelsey's voice sharpened outside the door, calling my name now, not the detective's. And for the first time, the thought I'd been pushing away pressed into me fully. reshaping itself into something I could no longer ignore. Kelsey stayed at the hospital with David's family, leaving her house empty when I let myself in with the spare key. The moment the door shut behind me, the silence felt too controlled, too arranged. The kitchen lights hummed softly, but every surface was spotless, more spotless than they'd been when I arrived for dinner. Even the cutting board was gone. I opened the trash bin. A new roll of bags had been used. Everything inside was from after dinner. Boxes for spices I'd never seen Kelsey use. A torn packet labeled Marinade Enhancer. Its scent wasn't culinary, it was chemical. Sharp enough to sting the throat. My hand shook as I set it down. I moved through the house slowly, calling her name out of habit even though I knew she wasn't there. Somewhere upstairs. The air felt heavier. I pushed open the door to her office. The lamp on the desk was still on, throwing thin yellow light across a stack of papers. Bank statements lay in a pile. One had bold, circled numbers debts into the tens of thousands, with Kelsey's handwriting totaling my house, pension, and even my small savings from clinic work. "No," I whispered. "You wouldn't do this." A second stack caught my eye. Photocopies of my property tax documents, my insurance policy, even the will I'd signed decades ago when she was still in elementary school. On top of the pile sat a yellow sticky note. After Christmas. My knees softened. I gripped the edge of the desk to stay upright. The room felt too tight. The walls too close. I sat in her chair, the leather cold beneath me, and pressed my fingers to my temples. Images from the dinner flickered through my mind, her tense smile, the way her hand trembled when she set my plate down, the frozen look when she realized I'd switched them. The documents lay in front of me like open wounds. Not accidents, not misunderstandings, intent. And still, part of me begged to stop searching, to leave everything where it was before I found something that would break me completely. David woke the next afternoon, pale and unsteady, but aware. When I stepped into his hospital room, he blinked at me as if pulling my face out of fog. "Marjorie," he rasped. "Where's Kelsey?" "She's talking to the detectives," I said softly. "They want to understand what happened." He let out a shaky breath, then pressed a hand to his chest. "That chicken, it burned going down. Not spicy, bitter. I thought maybe I was imagining it." His eyes drifted toward the window, unfocused. "She said, 'Take Mom's special piece.'" Then she pushed the plate toward me, insisting I eat the other one. My stomach tightened. "David," I switched them. His head turned sharply. What I don't know why. Something felt wrong. "I slid my plate to you." The silence that followed was heavy. Like the room tilted, and neither of us could stop the shift. "So it wasn't me," he whispered. "She didn't mean for it to be me." His voice cracked. He covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. God, she tried to kill her own mother. I took a step closer but stopped, unsure if comfort would help or make it worse. He lowered his hands slowly, eyes rimmed red. "I survived something meant for you, and I don't know how to carry that." Kelsey showed up at my door just after sundown, her hair unwashed, her coat thrown over pajamas like she'd left the hospital in a rush. She pushed past me before I could speak. "Detectives are asking insane questions," she said, pacing the living room. "They're twisting everything. You need to fix this. My name is Marjorie Ellington. I am 67. And I had never heard my daughter speak to me like a demand, not a plea." "Kelsey," I said carefully. "Sit down. We need to talk." She spun toward me. "I don't have time for a talk. They think I—" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They think I did something to David." I kept my eyes on hers. "They think someone tampered with the food." She froze. "What did you tell them?" "The truth." Her breath hitched. "What does that even mean?" I switched plates. I said, "I told them that." For a moment, She looked like someone had pulled the ground out from under her. Then her expression hardened. Why would you do that? Why would you make this worse? I didn't make anything worse, I replied. You served me first. Your hands were shaking. Something felt wrong. Kelsey laughed. A thin, broken sound. God, Mom, you and your instincts, always dramatic. You asked David to take my piece. I said, he remembers. Her jaw clenched. He wasn't supposed to. She stopped, choking on the sentence. This wasn't supposed to go wrong. A coldness spread through my limbs. Say what you mean. She looked anywhere but at me. You're older, Mom. You don't understand how hard everything is. We needed stability. You have assets. Money just sitting there while we're drowning. I felt something inside me crack, not loudly, not violently. Just a quiet split. Like fabric tearing at the seam. You've measured my life, I whispered. Only in dollars. No, she said quickly. Stepping toward me. I didn't think it would hurt. You thought I wouldn't fight. I said. Her face crumpled. Please, Mom, you can still fix this. Tell them you got confused. Tell them you're tired. I am tired, I said, but I'm not confused. She reached for my hand. I pulled mine away. I'm going to tell them everything, I said. The silence that followed felt final. Like the closing of a door we would never open again. Detective Harmon met me in the lobby of the precinct the next morning. His voice was gentle, but the weight behind it wasn't. Mrs. Ellington, do you still have the items you mentioned? I set the bag on the table. Inside lay the spice jar, with the strange chemical smell. The printed bank statements. The photos I took in Kelsey's office. And the sticky note that read, After Christmas. My hands shook only once when I let go of the bag. Harmon opened the lid of the jar and winced. We'll run this through forensics immediately. Across from him. Detective Ruiz glanced at me. You understand what you're turning over. I understand exactly, I said. My voice didn't waver. Age had finally given me something I could rely on. By late afternoon, they called me back. Forensics confirmed toxin residue, Harmon said, also found on a baking sheet and a cooking brush. I felt the room tighten around me, so it wasn't an accident. No, he said quietly. We've issued a warrant. When they arrested Kelsey that evening, I stayed inside my house. The patrol car lights flickered through my curtains like a warning. My sister-in-law called minutes later. What have you done? She cried. She's your daughter. She's also someone who tried to end my life. I replied. Some relatives hung up on me. Others sent long, guilt-soaked messages about family loyalty. A few said nothing at all, silence that felt like another kind of verdict. That night, the house echoed differently. Every corner felt heavier, the air thicker. Isolation at 67 wasn't a poetic thing. It was a chair that sat too empty, a kitchen too quiet, a heart too tired to pretend. But clarity stayed with me, steady as breath. Kelsey had made her choices, and now I had to live with mine. The Multnomah County Courthouse felt colder than the weather outside, not because of the marble floors or the draft under the doors, because Kelsey sat only a few yards away, refusing to look at me. The prosecutor called the first toxicologist. He spoke with clinical precision. The compound was mixed deliberately. The concentration found on the cooking brush indicates intent, not accident. Kelsey's attorney shifted uncomfortably. My client was under severe stress. Financial collapse. Caregiving pressure, she didn't think clearly. The prosecutor raised one brow. She thought clearly enough to measure. Prepare, and apply the substance only to one piece of chicken. David testified next. His voice trembled, but he stayed steady. She pushed the plate toward me. She said, "Take Mom's special piece." He swallowed hard. I didn't know. I didn't know I was taking something meant for her. I kept my eyes on my hands while he spoke. When they called me, the room settled into a heavy silence. I walked to the stand, aware of every breath. Mrs. Ellington, the prosecutor asked. Why did you switch plates? I don't know, I said. Something in her eyes felt wrong. So I acted. My voice was soft, but it didn't shake. I'm 67. Instinct keeps you alive. And what did you find later in her home? I described the documents. The spice jar. The note. Kelsey's shoulders curled inward with every word. Her attorney tried to argue desperation. Mental strain, bad judgment. But the evidence didn't bend. By late afternoon, the jury returned. The foreperson stood, guilty of attempted murder. Kelsey's head dropped as if someone had cut a string. I didn't speak. I didn't move. Justice had been spoken, and the echo of it lived heavy in my chest. 1 year later, my apartment in Southeast Portland was quiet enough that I could hear the kettle click off. No music, no laughter, no clatter of dishes from a crowded table. Just me, setting out a small plate with a simple dinner I made myself. David had sent a card earlier that morning. He wrote that he was rebuilding, that he hoped I was resting, that he didn't forget who saved his life. I set the card beside a sprig of rosemary, the closest thing to decoration I needed. I lit one candle. Its flame was steady, unlike the one in me last Christmas. I sat down and whispered to the empty chair across from me. I listened to myself. For once, my voice didn't tremble. Instinct had carried me through 67 years and had saved me when love tried to silence it. A soft knock startled me. It was my neighbor, Tina, holding a small container. I made extra, she said. No one should eat alone on Christmas. I smiled. Come sit, then. She stepped inside, hesitating only a moment. Are you sure I'm sure? I said, company is lighter than silence. We ate quietly at first, then talked about small things, her new job, the rain, how Portland winters feel longer than they are. She never mentioned the trial. She never mentioned Kelsey. Kindness sometimes lives in the things people don't say. When she left, I washed the dishes by hand, one at a time, letting the warm water settle me. No triumph, no bitterness, just breath, just another winter I got to see. If survival gives you another winter to live, what will you choose to do with it? Like, comment or subscribe to hear the next story.